Be strong and hold on a little longer. Kn had fallen when Rebecca left the hospital carrying her battered backpack. And the weight of a promise that seemed impossible to keep. She stopped on the sidewalk, watching the luxurious cars pass by as she mentally planned her strategy for the next day. I'll need to wake up really early. Tomorrow, I can't waste a single minute of the day on the hospital sidewalk. Rebecca sat with her back against the rough wall, her mind working frantically. In her hands, she counted the few crumpled bills in her wallet, all her savings from the past few months, selling sweets. The difference between what she had and what she needed seemed like an impassable chasm. The sun began to set on the horizon, painting the sky a red that painfully reminded her of the blood on her mother's handkerchief. How am I going to get so much money in so little time? A group of executives walked past her, talking about meetings and investments, their expensive clothes and hurried steps contrasting with Rebecca's small, disheveled figure. One of them dropped some coins, which rolled to her feet when she stood up to return them. The man had already disappeared inside a luxurious car. Those few coins in her hand sparked an idea. If she could get a better selling spot, perhaps near the offices. I'll have to skip school, but there's no other way. I need to sell more candy. Much more. The twilight had already tinted the sky purple when Rebecca returned to her mother's room. Rachel slept a restless sleep, her irregular breathing marked by the rhythmic sound of machines. Rebecca approached the bed, carefully tucking the strand of hair that fell across her mother's face. Her eyes stung from crying so much, but now there was a steely determination in her gaze. Tomorrow, I'll start selling candy near the offices. Mom, you'll see, I'll get that money, even if I have to work day and night. The night advanced when a different nurse entered the room carrying a clipboard and checking Rachel's vital signs. Her eyes softened when she saw Rebecca sleeping uncomfortably in the plastic chair. Still holding her mother's hand gently, she covered the girl with a thin hospital blanket. The silence of the night was broken only by the constant beeping of monitors and Rachel's labored breathing. Poor thing, so small, and already carrying such a heavy burden. In the early hours of the morning, Rebecca woke up startled by a different sound. Rachel was having another coughing fit, more violent than the previous ones. The machines started beeping frantically, their alarms echoing down the silent hallway. Rebecca desperately pressed the emergency button, her hands shaking so much she could barely keep them steady. Somebody help me, please. My mom is getting worse. The medical team invaded the room like a whirlwind of white coats and urgent voices. Rebecca was once again pushed outside, but this time her legs couldn't support her. She slid down the wall to the floor, her eyes fixed on the room's window, watching the frantic activity inside. Time seemed to stop as she watched the doctors fighting to stabilize her mother. Mom, don't give up, please, don't give up. After what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Santos came out of the room, his face marked by worry and fatigue. He sat down next to Rebecca on the floor, breaking all medical protocols. His deep voice tried to convey calm, but the tremor in his words betrayed the gravity of the situation. Rebecca, we were able to stabilize your mother, but she's very weak. Time is running out against us. Without the surgery. Rebecca didn't let the doctor finish the sentence. She jumped up, wiping away tears with the back of her hands. Her small face carried an expression that shouldn't exist on an 11-year-old child. It was a mixture of determination and despair, strength and fear. She straightened her rumpled clothes and grabbed her battered backpack. I'll get the money, doctor, tomorrow. I'll start selling candy at the office doors. My mother won't die for lack of money. Before leaving, Rebecca went back to the room one last time. Rachel was sedated again, her pale face against the hospital's white pillow. The girl approached, placed a soft kiss on her mother's forehead, and whispered, her voice choked but firm, I'll be back tomorrow, Mom, and the day after tomorrow, and every day until I get the money for your surgery. I promise I'll save you, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. With determined steps, Rebecca left the hospital, facing the cold night in her backpack. In addition to her few belongings, she carried the weight of a promise that seemed impossible to keep. But for that 11-year-old girl who had already faced so much impossible, was letting her mother go the next day would be just the beginning of her fight against time, fate, and a world that seemed too big for such a small child. The next day, the rain lashed the city mercilessly as Rebecca counted for the third time the coins in her small wooden box. Her fingers, numb from the cold, touched each coin as if they were precious earth, while her eyes burned with unshed tears. The strong wind whipped her wet face, but she remained steadfast under the narrow bakery awning. In her mind, the calculations wouldn't stop. $532 today with the $150 I already have saved at home. I still need more than $31,500 for Mom's surgery, she murmured to herself, her voice choked with despair. Please, my God, don't let her leave before I get all the money. The girl watched the last customers of the day running for shelter while trying to protect her candy box from the relentless rain. An elderly lady, before getting into her car, shouted at Rebecca, "Girl, go home. The weather is too dangerous for a child to be out." Rebecca just shook her head, replying in a determined voice, "I can't. Ma'am, every coin I earn is one more chance for my mother to live. I need to stay until I sell everything, even under this storm." The cars were passing at reduced speed through the steep curve overhead, their lights reflecting on the puddles that formed on the slippery asphalt. Rebecca watched apprehensively as some vehicles skidded slightly while taking the curve, her heart tightening each time this happened. Her thoughts were interrupted by a man passing in a hurry. "How much is the sweet little girl?" he asked, and Rebecca quickly answered, but her voice trembled with cold. $10 each, sir. They're made this morning, fresh. My mom always says they're the best in the city," the girl replied, handing him the sight. The sky was rapidly darkening, turning the afternoon into an early night. Rebecca hugged her box of sweets against her chest, trying to protect not only her merchandise, but also her hopes. Her tired eyes fixed on the dangerous curve while she whispered a prayer. "Mom always says that God never gives a burden greater than we can bear, but sometimes it seems so heavy, so impossible. Why does everything have to be so difficult? Couldn't it be a little easier?" she wondered. The storm intensified, and Rebecca could feel her feet soaked inside her worn-out sneakers. A distressing thought crossed her mind as she watched the movement on the street. "If I don't get that money soon, I'll lose my mother like I lost my father. I can't let that happen. I can't be alone in the world." Her hands trembled, not only from the cold but from fear of the uncertain future that awaited her. A group of people ran by seeking shelter. A woman briefly stopped, looking sadly at Rebecca. "My dear, you're going to catch pneumonia. Let me give you a ride home." "Where do you live?" she asked, but Rebecca shook her head, answering with a choked voice, "Thank you, but I can't get a ride from strangers. Besides, I need to sell all the merchandise I have. It's really important," the girl replied, giving her a grateful look. The strong wind carried leaves and small branches along the street, creating an even more frightening scene. Rebecca adjusted her small broken umbrella, trying uselessly to better protect herself. An inner voice kept repeating, "Just a few more hours, just a few more says. I can't give up now. Mom's counting on me." The sound of rain on the asphalt was deafening, but Rebecca kept her senses alert. She saw when a newer car approached the curve at a speed higher than prudent. Her heart raced when she realized something was wrong. "My God, he's going too fast. He's going to skid," she thought in panic. The town square clock read almost 6 in the evening, and darkness was almost complete. Rebecca quickly counted her coins again, her fingers trembling. "If I can sell one more box, maybe today will be a good day. I just need to hold on a little longer." Her voice was just a whisper against the storm. A stronger gust of wind nearly knocked down her makeshift umbrella. Rebecca struggled to keep it in place while watching more cars pass by the dangerous curve. "Please, God, don't let anything bad happen. We've already been through enough," she silently implored. The headlights of a private car caught her attention. It was a luxury vehicle, looking out of place in that more modest area of the city. Rebecca watched with growing concern when she realized the driver didn't seem to know the area well. "He's going too fast. He doesn't know the danger of this curve," she thought anxiously, her heart starting to beat faster. The sound of rain was interrupted by the noise of tires screeching on the wet asphalt. Rebecca hugged her box of candies to her chest, her eyes wide with fear fixed on the curve. An inner voice screamed in her mind, "No, please don't let a tragedy happen. Not in front of me, not today." The luxury car appeared around the curve like a black ghost, its headlights violently piercing the curtain of rain. Rebecca held her breath as she saw the vehicle at a speed far above what was safe for that road. Her experienced eyes, accustomed to watching that dangerous curve for months, already anticipated the tragedy. The driver, a man in a suit who she would later learn was named Robert, seemed completely oblivious to the danger that awaited him. No, he's going to crash. Why does no one ever pay attention to the warning sign for this curve? Her desperate thought echoed in her mind. The sound of tires screeching on the wet asphalt made her heart jump. The car began to slide, first slowly, then with full force towards the ravine. Her fingers gripped the box tighter, while her mind screamed in despair, "My God, what now?" Time seemed to have slowed down as Rebecca watched the car spinning out of control. She could see the driver's face through the windshield, the terror etched on his features as he struggled with the steering wheel. The coins in her box jingled, reminding her of all the hours of work, all the effort to save that money. A voice in her head whispered with her mother's voice, "Life is the most precious thing we have, daughter. We can chase after money, but a lost life never comes back." The car was about to fall into the ravine when Rebecca made her decision. With a quick motion, she dropped her box of candies on the ground and ran towards the accident. The coins scattered across the wet asphalt, sliding into the drains. Like her hopes of saving her mother, her eyes stung with tears of despair as she ran. "Forgive me, Mom. I promise I'll work double, triple that. I can't let someone die." The impact of the car against the guardrail was deafening. From the impact, the car was dragged too close to the ravine. Rebecca slipped on the wet sidewalk, falling and scraping her knees, but got up immediately. Her hands were trembling, no longer from the cold but from pure adrenaline. "Please, God, give me strength. Don't let him die. Don't let me have lost all our money for nothing," she pleaded as she approached the vehicle, now dangerously hanging over the ravine. The smell of gasoline and burnt rubber invaded her nostrils as she approached the car. Through the cracked windshield, she could see the unconscious driver, had red liquid trickling from his forehead. Rebecca began to shout for help, her voice almost disappearing in the storm. "Help, someone help me. There's a man trapped in here. Please, someone call an ambulance." The car remained dangerously close to the ravine, about to fall, while Rebecca desperately tried to open the driver's door, her small hand slipping on the wet handle. She looked inside the car and saw that the driver was unconscious, probably injured from the impact, but seemed alive. The metal of the car creaked ominously, threatening to give way at any moment. Her heart was beating so hard it felt like it wanted to jump out of her chest. "Wake up, mister. Please wake up. The car is going to fall. You need to help me get you out of there." The rain continued to fall relentlessly, further complicating the rescue. Rebecca could hear her coins being washed away by the flood, each one representing a small hope lost for her mother's treatment. But now her mind was focused on a single mission. "I can't let him die. I can't have that weight on my conscience. Mom always says doing the right thing is more important than any money." Within supreme effort for her age, Rebecca finally managed to open the driver's door. The man was still unconscious, trapped by the seat belt. Her hands were shaking as she tried to release the buckle. "Please, sir, help me. I'm not strong enough to carry you alone." A frightening metallic noise made Rebecca realize that the car was starting to slide further down the slope. Tears of fear and frustration streamed down her face as she continued trying to unfasten the belt. No, hold on just a little longer. Don't let us fall, please. God." The man began to slowly regain consciousness, moaning in pain. Rebecca felt a momentary relief when she saw his eyes opening. "Thank God, sir. You need to help me. The car is going to fall. We have to get out of here now." Her voice trembled with fear and urgency. With her strength renewed by adrenaline, Rebecca finally managed to release the seat belt. The man, still dazed, tried to understand what was happening. Where Rebecca interrupted him urgently. "There's no time to explain. Can you move? You need to get out of the car now." The metal continued cracking ominously, and Rebecca could feel the car moving further and further towards the slope. With a courage she didn't even know she possessed, she grabbed the man's arm. "Come on, lean on me. I know I'm small, but I promise I won't let you fall." A thunderous roar cut through the sky at the moment Rebecca began to pull the man out of the car. Her legs trembled with the effort, but her determination was greater than her fear. We'll make it, we have to make it. Mom always says that God doesn't give a cross heavier than we can bear. The car gave one last frightening creak when Rebecca finally managed to get the man completely out of it. They barely had time to move away when the vehicle plunged down the slope, exploding into a ball of fire that illuminated the rainy night. Rebecca hugged the injured man, shielding him from the flying debris. Thank God, we made it, we made it. The roar of the explosion still echoed when Rebecca felt a sharp pain in her back in an attempt to protect Robert. From the debris, she had become an involuntary human shield, and a piece had flown into her back. Her legs were trembling not only from the effort of the rescue, but also from the reality that was beginning to hit her. Robert, still dazed, tried to get up by leaning on Rebecca without realizing that the girl was injured. The smell of gasoline and burned metal permeated the air, while the flames of the car eerily illuminated the rainy night. Rebecca could feel something warm running down her back, but she remained firm. Can you stand on your own? I need to check something. Her voice trembled as her eyes desperately searched for her lost coins, the only chance to save her mother. Stumbling towards where she had left her candy box, Rebecca saw that her savings had been washed away by the flood. Coins slid down the drains like little drowning dreams, while drenched bills floated away, carrying with them the hope of saving her mother. Her knees gave way, and she fell on the wet sidewalk. 3 months of work, 3 months selling candies in sun and rain, all lost in seconds. A group of people began to approach, attracted by the explosion and smoke. Someone shouted for an ambulance, while others watched in horror at the burning car at the bottom of the slope. Rebecca tried to get up, but the pain in her back made her stagger. I can't give up now. I need to try to gather what's left. Maybe I can still save some coins, she muttered to herself. Dragging herself towards a nearby metallic glint, Robert, gradually regaining consciousness, finally noticed the state of his savior. My God, girl, you're hurt. His voice sounded alarmed as he saw the red stains on the back of Rebecca's soaked jacket. She tried to smile, but her face contorted in grimace of pain. It's nothing, sir. The important thing is that you're okay. The sound of sirens began to cut through the night, approaching rapidly. Rebecca continued her desperate search, ignoring the increasingly intense pain. Her hands were shaking as she tried to reach a wet note stuck in a drain. Please don't take this. 1, 2, every penny counts. Every cent is important to save my mother. Rebecca felt the world spin around her, the combination of pain, exhaustion, and despair finally taking its toll. Her legs faltered and she fell onto the wet sidewalk as a group of people approached, attracted by the explosion. Mom, forgive me. I tried, I swear I tried, she whispered, her voice getting lost in the sound of the rain. Chaos ensued when the paramedics arrived. A red puddle was forming under Rebecca, diluted by the relentless rain. The people around pointed alternately at the burning car and the injured girl on the ground. Robert, still dazed, tried to explain to the rescuers. She got me out of the car. This girl saved my life. One of the paramedics noticed the severity of the situation when he saw Rebecca's back. We need urgent care here. The girl has a deep cut. He knelt beside her, trying to assess the extent of the injury. Rebecca merely mumbled in response, my coins would please. I need to go back to the hospital. My mom needs me. The people around watched in silence as the rescuers worked. An elderly lady, recognizing Rebecca, approached Robert. This girl sells candies here every day. She's been saving up for her mother's surgery. My God, she lost everything to save you, sir. Robert felt his heart tighten with the revelation. The paramedics acted swiftly, preparing Rebecca for transport. One of them held her hand gently. Stay awake, little one. You were very brave. Now, let us take care of you. Rebecca squeezed his hand weakly. Mister, tell my mom I'm sorry that I tried to be strong like she always taught me. The world was starting to darken for Rebecca, the pain becoming unbearable through the fog taking over her consciousness. She still tried to explain, please, I need my coins. My mom only has 30 days. I need to save her. Voice was just a whisper among the sounds of rain and sirens. Robert, observing the scene with growing horror, began to understand the magnitude of that girl's sacrifice. He approached the ambulance, stumbling. What's her name? Please, I need to know. I need to thank her, one of the paramedics replied, As he closed the doors, she said her name is Rebecca. The ambulance doors closed, and the vehicle departed, cutting through the rainy night with its sirens. Rebecca, floating between consciousness and darkness, had one last thought before succumbing to the pain. Mom always says, angels exist, but today, by trying to be an angel for that man, maybe I've condemned her. The darkness finally enveloped her completely as the ambulance rushed towards the hospital. The emergency room doors burst open with the arrival of the two ambulances. Rebecca, still semi-conscious, was the first to be taken inside, while the paramedics quickly reported her condition. Girl, approximately 11 years old, back injuries caused by explosion, debris, possible trauma, considerable blood loss. Through the fog of pain, Rebecca still tried to ask about Robert, the man from the car. Is he okay? Someone needs to notify his family. The hospital corridors were a white blur as Rebecca's stretcher moved quickly. Her soaked and dirty clothes contrasted with the aseptic environment, leaving a trail of water and mud on the immaculate floor. An older nurse tried to calm her. Stay calm, little one. The man you saved is being well taken care of. His name is Robert. He's already being treated too. Rebecca squeezed the nurse's hand with what little strength she had. But I need to leave. My mom is alone at the hospital. I don't have a way to pay the hospital bill. The medical team worked urgently, cutting off the rest of Rebecca's wet clothes to assess the extent of her injuries. The chief physician gave precise orders. We need urgent blood. Typing, prepare the operating room. These cuts need to be sutured immediately. Through the pain, Rebecca still tried to explain, doctor, I can't stay. I don't have money to pay the hospital. I need to go back to take care of my mom. In the other wing of the emergency room, Robert was also receiving treatment, but his condition was less serious. Still dazed, he wouldn't stop asking about his young savior. The girl, how is she? I need to talk to her. I need to thank her. I saw that she lost everything to save me. Nurse tried to keep him calm. You need to worry about your own recovery. Now let the doctors take care of her. Rebecca began to feel more pain when the doctors turned her on her side to examine her back. Silent tears streamed down her mud-stained face as she murmured, Mom always says we need to be strong, but it hurts so much, and now I've lost all the money I was saving for her surgery. The older nurse held her hand tighter. You're the bravest girl I've ever met. Now let us take care of you. Everything will be okay with you and your mom. Have faith. The commotion in the hallway increased with the boas arrival of Victoria, Robert's daughter. Her high heels clicked loudly on the floor while her shrill voice echoed through the corridors. Where is my father, Robert Kingston? Someone tell me where he is. Her imposing presence and designer clothes drew everyone's attention. Rebecca felt a wave of dizziness as the doctors began cleaning her wounds. Through the pain, she could still hear the commotion in the hallway and Victoria's authoritative voice. One of the nurses commented softly, It's the daughter of the businessman who was in the accident. She's known for being difficult, the nurse confessed, and Rebecca just thought, I hope she takes good care of him. He seems like a good person. The confusion increased when Victoria, passing by the room where Rebecca was being treated, abruptly stopped upon seeing the girl's condition. Her disdainful gaze swept over Rebecca's torn and dirty clothes, and her voice cut through the air like a knife. What is this beggar doing in the same hospital as my father? This is an outrage. The doctor, irritated by the interruption, turned to Victoria. Ma'am, please, we're trying to save this girl's life. She needs an immediate transfusion and surgery, he responded, and Victoria huffed, adjusting her designer bag. And who's going to pay for that? You can't just treat anyone who shows up here. Rebecca, even semi-conscious, felt the weight of those words. Her tears were now not just from physical pain. The lady is right. I shouldn't be here. I can't pay. I need to leave. The older nurse squeezed her hand tighter. Don't even think about it, little one. You saved a life today. You deserve to be saved too. We will find a way. The doctors began preparing Rebecca for surgery, ignoring Victoria's protests. In the hallway, the doctor leaned over the girl. Rebecca, you need to be strong for a little longer. We're going to take care of you, and then we'll worry about the rest. Rebecca nodded weakly. But my mom, Sheikh, be worried. She's sick. Victoria continued her argument with the hospital administration, her voice echoing through. Knock out those cruel words. The medical team finally started taking Rebecca to the surgical center. The chief physician gave the final instructions: prepare everything. We can't waste any more time. This girl risked her own life to save the owner of our hospital network, and we will do the same for her. Rebecca, already under the effect of the first sedatives, had one last thought. Sorry, Mom, it looks like I'm not coming home today. From his bed in the emergency room, Robert heard his daughter's altered voice and tried to understand what was happening. Gathering his strength, he called a nurse. Please tell my daughter that that girl is my savior, that she's not an imposter. She's an angel. I'll pay for her treatment, he said, and the nurse nodded. But Victoria had already begun her crusade against Rebecca's presence at the hospital. Rebecca was finally taken to the surgical center, leaving behind a trail of water, mud, and worry. The last words she heard before succumbing to the anesthesia were from the doctor: "You'll be okay, little warrior. Today you were a guardian angel. Now let us be yours." The world went dark once again for Rebecca, while Victoria continued her battle to have the beggar removed from the hospital 3 hours after the surgery. Rebecca woke up still dazed from the anesthesia, her body aching, but alive. The simple hospital room was silent except for the constant beeping of the monitors. She tried to move but felt a sharp twinge in her backpack. Her eyes wandered around the unfamiliar environment as she tried to organize her confused thoughts. What time is it? My mom must be so worried. I need to let her know. Victoria entered the room like a hurricane, her high heels echoing threateningly on the floor, her face contorted with disgust at seeing Rebecca trying to sit up in bed. "So you're the supposed savior of my father, a dirty girl who works selling on the street?" she asked. Rebecca, still weak, tried to explain. "Please, ma'am, I just wanted to help your father. He was going to die if no one did anything." The older nurse, who had been with Rebecca since her arrival, tried to intervene upon hearing the argument. "Mrs. Kingston, this girl really saved your father. All the paramedics confirmed it," the nurse said, but Victoria interrupted her abruptly. "And who guarantees it wasn't all staged? These people are experts at creating situations to get close to rich people. Guards, I need security here now." How? Rebecca felt tears burning her eyes as she tried to defend herself. "I swear, I didn't plan anything. I just sell candy on the corner. I was trying to save money for my mother's surgery," the girl said with a choked voice. Victoria laughed scornfully. "Oh, of course, the old sick mother story. You need to come up with better stories." Rebecca felt her heart tighten at the cruelty of those words. The hospital guards appeared at the door, watching the scene uncomfortably. Victoria pointed at Rebecca with her well-groomed finger. "I want this girl out of this hospital immediately. She's an imposter, probably part of some gang. She's taking advantage of my father's money. She doesn't have money to pay for this hospital," the woman said. Rebecca tried to get up, her legs trembling. "Please let me explain. I lost all my savings to save your father," the chief